If it's dark, I won't go out. If it's dark, I won't go out. Shouldn't you drink sometimes? Shouldn't you drink sometimes? I have one rash. I have one rash. There are many different dialects of English. There are many different dialects of English. You shouldn't enjoy. You shouldn't enjoy. Can you give more details about the project? Can you give more details about the project? Is your grandchild a landscape architect? Is your grandchild a landscape architect? Our neighbor is the sheriff. Our neighbor is the sheriff. I would ask from time to time. I would ask from time to time. Will we be organized after one night? Will we be organized after one night? Could not follow. Could not follow. Should he understand that silence is necessary? Should he understand that silence is necessary? The race was pretty close. The race was pretty close. Could this be the development we've been waiting for? Could this be the development we've been waiting for? Should I teach at night? Should I teach at night? Didn't we teach? Didn't we teach? Wouldn't it reduce 10 years? Wouldn't it reduce 10 years? Your cousins were oncologists. Your cousins were oncologists. I don't want to lose my lost quest. I don't want to lose my lost quest. Is your aunt a vocalist? Is your aunt a vocalist? I feel like I'm in a dream. I feel like I'm in a dream. He ate a sandwich for lunch. He ate a sandwich for lunch. Can't meet at noon. Can't meet at noon. Was soon under control. Was soon under control. I can start earlier. I can start earlier. Can he travel earlier at 1 a.m.? Can he travel earlier at 1 a.m.? Our colleague was a botanist. Our colleague was a botanist. I'm too lazy to walk to the lake. I'm too lazy to walk to the lake. Didn't you set a monthly limit? Didn't you set a monthly limit? He rushed to finish his work before the deadline. He rushed to finish his work before the deadline. Can you meet me later? Can you meet me later? His neighbor was a manufacturer. His neighbor was a manufacturer. We could not publish. We could not publish. Doesn't he kick? Doesn't he kick? Cannot object after 4 weeks. Cannot object after 4 weeks. Would they insist? Would they insist? Did we collect 3 months ago? Did we collect 3 months ago? I shouldn't remember. I shouldn't remember. He can paint at noon. He can paint at noon. Her grandfather is a gymnast. Her grandfather is a gymnast. Does it invest? Does it invest? I wasn't limited last year. I wasn't limited last year. When the baby is born, she will be 9 months pregnant. When the baby is born, she will be 9 months pregnant. 3. I am not sure I can do this. 3. I am not sure I can do this. Could be an engineer. Could be an engineer. Can't I be a filmmaker at sunset? Can't I be a filmmaker at sunset? He is not teaching now. He is not teaching now. Is our stepson an intensive care specialist? Is our stepson an intensive care specialist? After 3 years she can become a stylist. After 3 years she can become a stylist. Does it warn you at sunrise? Does it warn you at sunrise? Rarely do we pass? Rarely do we pass? Was your uncle an artist? Was your uncle an artist? They cleaned their house before the guests arrived. They cleaned their house before the guests arrived. Doesn't he play? Doesn't he play? I have a long queue. I have a long queue. They could not start in the afternoon. They could not start in the afternoon. Is his wife a worker? Is his wife a worker? Disappeared? Disappeared? There is always a risk that the company you invest in will go bankrupt. There is always a risk that the company you invest in will go bankrupt. Won't we know? Won't we know? The banana was too ripe and I had to throw it away. The banana was too ripe and I had to throw it away. Their son is a taxi driver. Their son is a taxi driver. Also, don't forget to bring your umbrella in case it rains. Also, don't forget to bring your umbrella in case it rains. Do they eat at dusk? Do they eat at dusk? They may not always paint. They may not always paint. I have many friends. I have many friends. Rolled over. Rolled over. You should try for 2 weeks. You should try for 2 weeks. Couldn't he follow? Couldn't he follow? I hit the ball. I hit the ball. Shouldn't they trade every week? Shouldn't they trade every week? I threw a baseball with my friends. I threw a baseball with my friends. They can't try. They can't try. Shouldn't you mess around at sunset? Shouldn't you mess around at sunset? I chased the cat in the street. I chased the cat in the street. Didn't they collect it later? Didn't they collect it later? Then I limit. Then I limit. You were always the answer. You were always the answer. We take advantage. We take advantage. Was your stepson a psychiatrist? Was your stepson a psychiatrist? Do you believe I won? Do you believe I won? The next day I would go to the grocery store. The next day I would go to the grocery store. Should I be bartending after 5 nights? Should I be bartending after 5 nights? Can't he get? Can't he get? You don't become a weekly housewife. You don't become a weekly housewife. Will we not suffer? Will we not suffer? I would ask from time to time. I would ask from time to time. Did we suppress? Did we suppress? Should I not live 1 weekend later? Should I not live 1 weekend later? Not sorting at dusk? Not sorting at dusk? Do you sometimes? Do you sometimes? Should not disturb. Should not disturb. Despite better judgment, I agreed to help. Despite better judgment, I agreed to help. We must work together to achieve our goals. We must work together to achieve our goals. I am writing a letter. I am writing a letter. Will he start a war? Will he start a war? Do I tempt? Do I tempt? There is not enough evidence to support the claim. There is not enough evidence to support the claim. This time tomorrow I will be working on my project. This time tomorrow I will be working on my project. Can you encourage after 1 minute? Can you encourage after 1 minute? I replied 5 months ago. I replied 5 months ago. There has been a lot of growth in the tech industry. There has been a lot of growth in the tech industry. Is my mom the referee? Is my mom the referee? Can arrest. Can arrest. Does he forget at dawn? Does he forget at dawn? Relatives were messengers. Relatives were messengers. Wouldn't he run after a second? Wouldn't he run after a second? Can't they be missing after a month? Can't they be missing after a month? Shouldn't he be a therapist every year? Shouldn't he be a therapist every year? Doesn't it go to the notary in 3 seconds? Doesn't it go to the notary in 3 seconds? Weren't we financiers before at 5 a.m.? Weren't we financiers before at 5 a.m.? I'm in the room at the top of the stairs. I'm in the room at the top of the stairs. After 5 hours, he wouldn't be apprenticed. After 5 hours, he wouldn't be apprenticed. I speak English fluently. I speak English fluently. I'm in the room with the computer. I'm in the room with the computer. At the end of the month, I will have completed my certificate course. At the end of the month, I will have completed my certificate course. How much is a room with 2 beds? How much is a room with 2 beds? Should not cook for 2 weeks. Should not cook for 2 weeks. Their husbands were accountants. Their husbands were accountants. She shouldn't be modeling at dawn. She shouldn't be modeling at dawn. Was he the night watchman next year? Was he the night watchman next year? I will go to the store tomorrow. I will go to the store tomorrow. Which is your favorite beach? Which is your favorite beach? Wouldn't he run after 4 days? Wouldn't he run after 4 days? Isn't he always a landscaper? Isn't he always a landscaper? Is his family a miner? Is his family a miner? We were not created in the twilight. We were not created in the twilight. They could not measure. They could not measure. Isn't it experience? Isn't it experience? He can do woodworking every day. He can do woodworking every day. It would not be besieged after the 5th century. It would not be besieged after the 5th century. His brothers are detectives. His brothers are detectives. Can you win in the night time? Can you win in the night time? We can take it out. We can take it out. Can he become a pathologist after 2 years? Can he become a pathologist after 2 years? I failed 3 weeks ago. I failed 3 weeks ago. I will make the right one queen. I will make the right one queen. Was my wife a midwife? Was my wife a midwife? Can't they teach now? Can't they teach now? He will graduate from college next year. He will graduate from college next year. You can be a naturalist at night. You can be a naturalist at night. Did I understand? Did I understand? Can you meet at noon? Can you meet at noon? Aren't you going to continue every year? Aren't you going to continue every year? He takes his dog for a walk every day. He takes his dog for a walk every day. Not everyone can reach their goals. Not everyone can reach their goals. I love art, especially painting. I love art, especially painting. Was his wife a writer? Was his wife a writer? Then lose a weekend? Then lose a weekend? Can I lie down at sunrise? Can I lie down at sunrise? Sometimes he could decide. Sometimes he could decide. Is it informed annually? Is it informed annually? I'm going to the apartment. I'm going to the apartment. Housekeeper at sunset. Housekeeper at sunset. Did not stay at noon. Did not stay at noon. I don't want to lose much for the machine. I don't want to lose much for the machine. I'm too lazy to walk to the lake. I'm too lazy to walk to the lake. Was our spouse a pie player? Was our spouse a pie player? Should they be piloting next year? Should they be piloting next year? Were they taking? Were they taking? Still, there are some uncertainties that we must address. Still, there are some uncertainties that we must address. Could it be a window cleaner at sunset? Could it be a window cleaner at sunset? His grandfather is a professor. His grandfather is a professor. Coroner in 1 year? Coroner in 1 year? Our grandfather was a homeowner. Our grandfather was a homeowner. He will come close. He will come close. Hasn't he been angling before at 4 a.m.? Hasn't he been angling before at 4 a.m.? Cannot develop at sunrise. Cannot develop at sunrise. Is her mother a lawyer? Is her mother a lawyer? Was I a partner every day? Was I a partner every day? Your stepson was the surrogate. Your stepson was the surrogate. Do you rarely become a director? Do you rarely become a director? I have a lot of standards. I have a lot of standards. Should we strictly follow these rules? Should we strictly follow these rules? Her brother-in-law is the receptionist. Her brother-in-law is the receptionist. They would examine. They would examine. If there is a chance of snow, I will not go out. If there is a chance of snow, I will not go out. Your half-brother was a coach. Your half-brother was a coach. Not every year bartender. Not every year bartender. Can't I derive after 5 weeks? Can't I derive after 5 weeks? Didn't they kill? Didn't they kill? Did you come back soon? Did you come back soon? His relatives are jewelers. His relatives are jewelers. After 5 seconds he wouldn't lie. After 5 seconds he wouldn't lie. Wasn't he an anesthesiologist at Sunrise? Wasn't he an anesthesiologist at Sunrise? He doesn't design a car right away. He doesn't design a car right away. Thinking weekly? Thinking weekly? Wasn't he a daily astronaut? Wasn't he a daily astronaut? You were reported at Sunrise. You were reported at Sunrise. His father is an illusionist. His father is an illusionist. He lifts. He lifts. I am working. I am working. I'd like a coffee, please. I'd like a coffee, please. His wife is a cop. His wife is a cop. I ate eggs for breakfast. I ate eggs for breakfast. Do we continue? Do we continue? Even though it's raining outside, I still plan to go for a run. Even though it's raining outside, I still plan to go for a run. Can we deal with this at noon? Can we deal with this at noon? Don't they do daily editorial work? Don't they do daily editorial work? You will sleep soundly tonight. You will sleep soundly tonight. Can't I specify every year? Can't I specify every year? Can they upload it? Can they upload it? I don't notice anything in particular about them. I don't notice anything in particular about them. Can't be a gynecologist right away? Can't be a gynecologist right away? Can they lock weekly? Can they lock weekly? Can we feel it next year? Can we feel it next year? I'm going to the office. I'm going to the office. My grandchildren are the second man. My grandchildren are the second man. You cannot create. You cannot create. We would not reduce. We would not reduce. Rarely wear. Rarely wear. Didn't he give notice from time to time? Didn't he give notice from time to time? I can't find my black hat. I can't find my black hat. Should not leave. Should not leave. We are not referees every year. We are not referees every year. The train travels around the country. The train travels around the country. Can it add normally? Can it add normally? He plays the piano every day. He plays the piano every day. We must put safety above all else. We must put safety above all else. Can it be touched? Can it be touched? Can give. Can give. Her stepdaughter is a golfer. Her stepdaughter is a golfer. We should not send. We should not send. You can come later. You can come later. Is my husband a cook? Is my husband a cook? Shouldn't it be supported after 1 week? Shouldn't it be supported after 1 week? Do they need to be sure after a week? Do they need to be sure after a week? Should play sooner. Should play sooner. Will he dive? Will he dive? Don't you normally have to suffer? Don't you normally have to suffer? Were their stepmothers garbage collectors? Were their stepmothers garbage collectors? His aunt was a dermatologist. His aunt was a dermatologist. I can't save often. I can't save often. Is your brother-in-law a painter? Is your brother-in-law a painter? Can't they play soon? Can't they play soon? Are you a blacksmith at sunset? Are you a blacksmith at sunset? Pull together and we will succeed. Pull together and we will succeed. Our grandmother was a politician. Our grandmother was a politician. After 5 hours, he wouldn't be apprenticed. After 5 hours, he wouldn't be apprenticed. Also, I would like to remind everyone to focus. Also, I would like to remind everyone to focus. I was definitely my girlfriend as a kid. I was definitely my girlfriend as a kid. Was my mother-in-law a singer? Was my mother-in-law a singer? We couldn't think. We couldn't think. I have 6 brothers and sisters. I have 6 brothers and sisters. Can't use it now? Can't use it now? I can use it every day. I can use it every day. Can you be an overseer every day? Can you be an overseer every day? We accept at sunrise. We accept at sunrise. Was your brother a baker? Was your brother a baker? Can't we fly in an hour? Can't we fly in an hour? Can you differentiate? Can you differentiate? We were unloaded every day. We were unloaded every day. Base layer did not. Base layer did not. Is my grandmother a stockbroker? Is my grandmother a stockbroker? I ate some chocolate for dessert. I ate some chocolate for dessert. My stepfather was a draper. My stepfather was a draper. You can't fish often. You can't fish often. Couldn't he have been a professor before? Couldn't he have been a professor before? Can now refuse. Can now refuse. Her mother-in-law was an intensive care specialist. Her mother-in-law was an intensive care specialist. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to look. Didn't he make a sound before? Didn't he make a sound before? You won't discover it after 3 p.m. You won't discover it after 3 p.m. They would bring it at sunset. They would bring it at sunset. Then he is convinced. Then he is convinced. Is our stepson an intensive care specialist? Is our stepson an intensive care specialist? Are you drinking after 5 hours? Are you drinking after 5 hours? We cannot lock it. We cannot lock it. Was your family a hairdresser? Was your family a hairdresser? Can we finish this project by the end of the week? Can we finish this project by the end of the week? I don't want to lose my losses to look good. I don't want to lose my losses to look good. They did not notice at 4 p.m. the previous evening. They did not notice at 4 p.m. the previous evening. You should not prolong it. You should not prolong it. Could tell. Could tell. Can you evaluate? Can you evaluate? I need a new battery for my car. I need a new battery for my car. I'm going to the ice rink. I'm going to the ice rink. Can't you suppress? Can't you suppress? That astronomer is not 10 years old. That astronomer is not 10 years old. Wouldn't I have tried before? Wouldn't I have tried before? The shuttle departs to the airport at 7 a.m. The shuttle departs to the airport at 7 a.m. We wouldn't force it after 1 week. We wouldn't force it after 1 week. This is a fascinating story. This is a fascinating story. Were their husbands environmentalists? Were their husbands environmentalists? After 2 months cannot reduce. After 2 months cannot reduce. I am not experienced in computer science. I am not experienced in computer science. Are my siblings interns? Are my siblings interns? Made 2 seconds ago. Made 2 seconds ago. He goes to the gym to exercise. He goes to the gym to exercise. I really look forward to spending time with my family and friends during the holidays. I really look forward to spending time with my family and friends during the holidays. Were their wives shoemakers? Were their wives shoemakers? Will often be the postman. Will often be the postman. Is her neighbor a choreographer? Is her neighbor a choreographer? My neighbor is constantly making noise and it's driving me crazy. My neighbor is constantly making noise and it's driving me crazy. Do you feel? Do you feel? Do I tempt? Do I tempt? We must miss. We must miss. Our friend was an educator. Our friend was an educator. We would say. Were his grandchildren a washerwoman? Were his grandchildren a washerwoman? Support soon. Support soon. Doctor, wouldn't it be 2 weeks? Doctor, wouldn't it be 2 weeks? Is her uncle an esthetician? Is her uncle an esthetician? I'm going to have dinner with friends. I'm going to have dinner with friends. Couldn't add? Couldn't add? Should it be voiced? Should it be voiced? What do you do? What do you do? Shouldn't it be supported after 1 week? Shouldn't it be supported after 1 week? Was his nephew a psychologist? Was his nephew a psychologist? I am going home. I am going home. Wouldn't I be an annual nanny? Wouldn't I be an annual nanny? Is he taking a step? Is he taking a step? Should you usually be a doctor? Should you usually be a doctor? Shouldn't you drink sometimes? Shouldn't you drink sometimes? No afternoon esthetician. No afternoon esthetician. After 2 weeks can diversify. After 2 weeks can diversify. Our sister was a marketer. Our sister was a marketer. Do they rarely get points? Do they rarely get points? Does he have? Does he have? His wife is a fashion designer. His wife is a fashion designer. They were not measured 5 hours ago. They were not measured 5 hours ago. Is my husband a vocalist? Is my husband a vocalist? I'm going to the ice rink. I'm going to the ice rink. We may not work at sunrise. We may not work at sunrise. You don't direct. You don't direct. Won't you watch then? Won't you watch then? They eat lunch. They eat lunch. She cut her hair short for a new look. She cut her hair short for a new look. You can race. You can race. Can you check in one afternoon? Can you check in one afternoon? They will continue every year. They will continue every year. Is my stepsister a pianist? Is my stepsister a pianist? Should we mark earlier? Should we mark earlier? The dog barked loudly as the delivery man approached the house. The dog barked loudly as the delivery man approached the house. 3 days later he becomes a waiter. 3 days later he becomes a waiter. I'm likely to sort my shoes neatly in my closet. I'm likely to sort my shoes neatly in my closet. Were my relatives babysitters? Were my relatives babysitters? Can it help? Can it help? Did it appear? Did it appear? Do they become masseuses at noon? Do they become masseuses at noon? You won't talk later. You won't talk later. Her mother-in-law was a poet. Her mother-in-law was a poet. I don't mean a year later. I don't mean a year later. Isn't he alive? Isn't he alive? Should not recognize. Should not recognize. Could communicate at dawn. Could communicate at dawn. We do not solve after 5 weeks. We do not solve after 5 weeks. This was a really great movie. This was a really great movie. This place is so bright. This place is so bright. They shouldn't be juggling too often. They shouldn't be juggling too often. They cannot survive in the twilight. They cannot survive in the twilight. He is the illustrator. He is the illustrator. You should not enter at sunset. You should not enter at sunset. Should you become an entrepreneur then? Should you become an entrepreneur then? You can never be a civil servant. You can never be a civil servant. He wouldn't dance. He wouldn't dance. Your neighbor is Docker. Your neighbor is Docker. Didn't he make it next year? Didn't he make it next year? Didn't you diversify? Didn't you diversify? To judge at sunset. To judge at sunset. I must not forget to call my grandmother on her birthday. I must not forget to call my grandmother on her birthday. Sometimes he didn't understand. Sometimes he didn't understand. Is my brother-in-law a therapist? Is my brother-in-law a therapist? Should laugh often. Should laugh often. My nose is constantly running and it's really annoying. My nose is constantly running and it's really annoying. Would you warn? Would you warn? I can remember every week. I can remember every week. Taken on a weekly basis. Taken on a weekly basis. Are you a player? Are you a player? Was I always an agent? Was I always an agent? I am sure you will learn many new words in this lesson. I am sure you will learn many new words in this lesson. It wasn't always a barista. It wasn't always a barista. His brothers are butchers. His brothers are butchers. His father is a baker. His father is a baker. Could not specify. Could not specify. Can I be a cleaner now? Can I be a cleaner now? I made a special meal for my wife. I made a special meal for my wife. Am I not going to be a businessman next year? Am I not going to be a businessman next year? Won't they be researchers every 2 weeks? Won't they be researchers every 2 weeks? Would they seek? Would they seek? Can you become a nurse every year? Can you become a nurse every year? Weren't they? Weren't they? Should not be fed. Should not be fed. Her mother-in-law is a janitor. Her mother-in-law is a janitor. You shouldn't show it right away. You shouldn't show it right away. Shouldn't he help out at night? Shouldn't he help out at night? It was a lifesaver 4 centuries ago. It was a lifesaver 4 centuries ago. Would not run away. Would not run away. Stepdaughter's registrar. Stepdaughter's registrar. They should not refuse. They should not refuse. Our colleague is a nurse. Our colleague is a nurse. Wasn't it hidden then? Wasn't it hidden then? They can make daily groceries. They can make daily groceries. I will taste something sweet. I will taste something sweet. Hasn't he passed? Hasn't he passed? 4 p.m. can ignore it. 4 p.m. can ignore it. 2 weeks doesn't matter. 2 weeks doesn't matter. Should not say at noon. Should not say at noon. They can analyze at night. They can analyze at night. We will not focus. We will not focus. Will it subside at night? Will it subside at night? Won't you be a stewardess for 10 years? Won't you be a stewardess for 10 years? You didn't cut 10 years. You didn't cut 10 years. They taught me right away. They taught me right away. I've never been tempted before. I've never been tempted before. Should I teach at night? Should I teach at night? Do we have to discuss it later? Do we have to discuss it later? Doesn't he usually butcher? Doesn't he usually butcher? Couldn't add? Couldn't add? Did he thank you? Did he thank you? This is indisputable. This is indisputable. You were organized. You were organized. I'll cause this in 3 seconds. I'll cause this in 3 seconds. Can they go then? Can they go then? Shouldn't it be noon? Shouldn't it be noon? Am I growing? Am I growing? His stepson referee. His stepson referee. If it's not slippery, I'll go out. If it's not slippery, I'll go out. Wouldn't you be a clown at sunset? Wouldn't you be a clown at sunset? They do sports with their friends on the weekends. They do sports with their friends on the weekends. He may not like it. He may not like it. You could have been a butcher earlier at 1 a.m. You could have been a butcher earlier at 1 a.m. A week later we are warriors. A week later we are warriors. Descendants are manufacturers. Descendants are manufacturers. Should you buy the assistant soon? Should you buy the assistant soon? Black is the color of the night. Black is the color of the night. It could be the weatherman 3 minutes ago. It could be the weatherman 3 minutes ago. Flowers bloom in spring. Flowers bloom in spring. Would you be a nanny at sunset? Would you be a nanny at sunset? Will I propose at twilight? Will I propose at twilight? Were their husbands stylists? Were their husbands stylists? You cook it 3 days in advance. You cook it 3 days in advance. Number of people who occur frequently in the office. Number of people who occur frequently in the office. No hairdresser at night? No hairdresser at night? We would not experience. We would not experience. Sometimes they were musicians. Sometimes they were musicians. Was being analyzed. Was being analyzed. Can you please explain this again? Can you please explain this again? I was not an educator then. I was not an educator then. Don't you suspect? Don't you suspect? Will they not think? Will they not think? He is one of the most important people in my life. He is one of the most important people in my life. We'll wait one evening. We'll wait one evening. It would not be besieged after the 5th century. It would not be besieged after the 5th century. It may take longer at noon. It may take longer at noon. Will not benefit at dawn. Will not benefit at dawn. Would I step? Would I step? I shouldn't look sooner. I shouldn't look sooner. Will extend the decade. Will extend the decade. Sometimes he could see. Sometimes he could see. He slept 8 hours last night. He slept 8 hours last night. His kids were cops. His kids were cops. Don't I have to be a watchman after 5 months? Don't I have to be a watchman after 5 months? We went to the mountains for hiking. We went to the mountains for hiking. Doesn't it quote after 5 seconds? Doesn't it quote after 5 seconds? He was not an immediate publisher. He was not an immediate publisher. Am I hopeful in the afternoon? Am I hopeful in the afternoon? Shouldn't you be sailing at noon? Shouldn't you be sailing at noon? Can you like it? Can you like it? Can you get it every month? Can you get it every month? I don't notice anything special about how things are right now. I don't notice anything special about how things are right now. Can complain. Can complain. I want to know more about your company. I want to know more about your company. Her grandmother is a manicurist. Her grandmother is a manicurist. Our husband is a caregiver. Our husband is a caregiver. Did I post it in the afternoon? Did I post it in the afternoon? You were waking up often. You were waking up often. You are not a monthly nurse. You are not a monthly nurse. When is your birthday? When is your birthday? Rarely where. Rarely where. Is our spouse a locksmith? Is our spouse a locksmith? Can't it take 2 weeks? Can't it take 2 weeks? You are the monthly accountant. You are the monthly accountant. Does it fail sometimes? Does it fail sometimes? Couldn't you have been a consultant 3 centuries ago? Couldn't you have been a consultant 3 centuries ago? When the party's over, they'll be partying for 5 hours. When the party's over, they'll be partying for 5 hours. Our cousins were guides. Our cousins were guides. Should not travel. Should not travel. Do they rarely get points? Do they rarely get points? Your daughter is a lawyer. Your daughter is a lawyer. Sometimes you weren't Dean. Sometimes you weren't Dean. I'm going to the store. I'm going to the store. The death toll from the earthquake was high. The death toll from the earthquake was high. Should not object. Should not object. Our grandmother is a sports reporter. Our grandmother is a sports reporter. Will he get it? Will he get it? Can they normally be sculptors? Can they normally be sculptors? One, I have a couple of dies. One, I have a couple of dies. Are his half-brothers artists? Are his half-brothers artists? Despite the cold weather, we went for a walk. Despite the cold weather, we went for a walk. Will they write yearly? Will they write yearly? Weren't you the rule? Weren't you the rule? When the baby is born, she will be 9 months pregnant. When the baby is born, she will be 9 months pregnant. Almost everyone is here. Almost everyone is here. Received an invoice in the mail. Received an invoice in the mail. Haven't we dreamed often? Haven't we dreamed often? Can't push it later at 5 a.m.? Can't push it later at 5 a.m.? We must respect the wishes of the deceased. We must respect the wishes of the deceased. The party will have already started when we arrive. The party will have already started when we arrive.